Welcome to Everything CPA and Private Equity, where we unpack the evolving relationship between accounting firms, private equity, and other strategics. I'm David Wolfskehl.
And I'm Phil Whitman, and we've chatted with more than 150 private equity groups. We've actually closed over 40 transactions with those private equity groups, and we're bringing you firsthand insights from the front lines.
And whether you're exploring your first deal, putting your toe in the water, refining your strategy, we're here to guide you with real stories, expert advice, actionable takeaways. Let's dive in.
Well, welcome to another episode of Everything CPA and PE. And today we're talking about something that's really important, and many PE firms will help you accomplish that. And that is looking at your staffing from a different point of view. For so many firms, and traditionally, staffing was about my local market. And who can I find that's local and can come in to our office? The pandemic certainly changed that, and more firms became more comfortable with having people be virtual or remote most of the time in the U.S. and now that offshoring. So very excited to have Whitman Advisory members here with us to talk about global talent. Because if you look at talent where they are, your pool of opportunities expands exponentially versus thinking about who's within 40 minutes of my facility. So very excited. We have people that we partner with. These are people on our team, and, we have great people. So first we have David Pence and Melissa Pinedo of Whitman Advisory, and they'll share their story, but they focus on Latin American. Some people call that nearshoring. Some people still call it offshoring. I have Ely Lim. I'm used to Eli. My neighbor used to be Eli. And he's with Global Staff Connections, and they're in the Philippines, right? And they're a partner of ours as well. And so very excited. And if you're thinking about offshoring, there's differences where you go, where you find that talent, what that talent does for you. And this is really exciting. So first of all, why don't we introduce ourselves? So David, why don't you share a little bit of your background and the story of getting here?
Yeah, sure. So, David Pence, and I started taxstaff.com back in 2018, and we are focused on bringing in accountants for the CPA firms across the country of the lower 48 mostly. We dabbled with having people from India and the Philippines as an example, which great people, great use cases. But one of the things we heard from some of our customers is, first of all, we have a lot of border state customers that said, hey, we really need Spanish speaking every year, a little bit more in the United States, a little bit more. There's more and more business owners that may prefer to speak Spanish with their tax advisor than English. And so we get requests from those particular CPA firms. And then there's certain tasks with bigger CPA firms where maybe it's not just tax. Maybe there's a bookkeeping division or an audit division, and they need those people from 8 to 5 or 9 to 5, right? And so being on the same or similar time zone with Latin America, with the U.S., has been a boon for many of our CPA customers, where they can say, I want to have a 9 a.m. meeting on Tuesday, and it's 9 a.m. my time, and it's great that it's 9 a.m. my staff's time as well. So those have been two big advantages. So the company that I started, again, is called taxstaff.com, but we are now partnered with Whitman, and we're super excited to be the Latin arm for them.
And at Whitman, again, we feel it's about finding the right talent where they are. And we're so excited to have a Latin American partner, because when you have a partner, it's different than when you have somebody you have a vendor relationship. So very excited. And Melissa, why don't you introduce yourself as well?
Yes, of course. I'm Melissa Pinedo. I'm Colombian. I live in Colombia, and I joined taxstaff.com 2.5 years ago as a sales rep. I'm super happy to represent my people from Latin America, having this amazing opportunity to join American companies and to have excellent salaries and opportunities that unfortunately we don't have that much in our own countries in Latin America.
And look, each culture is different. So having somebody who's an insider is so important, because cultural makes a difference. So welcome and thank you. And Ely, why don't you introduce yourself?
Well, I've been with Global Staff Connections for about a year now. And it's almost like Melissa, right? She spoke about Colombia. If she hadn't said Colombia, it's just as easily can be interpreted as speaking about the Philippines, because there's a lot of similarity. In the Philippines, clearly we're known for Manny Pacquiao. right? We're known for a few other things other than Manny Pacquiao, but I think we are the biggest exporter of nurses
Yes.
and accountants, right? And videoke professionals or karaoke singers in the world. But we have we've developed a great talent base of professional services in the Philippines over the years. And it seems like a natural fit for us because of the communication skills of it's inherent. Even in school, English is the one that's taught. It's a medium of communication or instruction when you're growing up in the Philippines and in school. We have been around for over 13 years now, Global Staff Connections, and couldn't be any happier, that we're able to find talent, for our clients all over the world.
And one thing about Global Staff Connections, with 12% voluntary turnover rate last year, involuntary turnover rate. And so let's start with that because, do you recommend that people treat their offshore teams as separate teams and not part of our culture? Or should they be one team, one culture, one place? So David, any thoughts on that?
Absolutely. It is much more successful if staff are staff for your CPA firm and your organization, and it is not divided, whether it's the Philippines team or the Colombia team or whatever it is. It's much better if it's the team, right? Everybody has the Christmas party and the well wishes and they're included, even if it's on a video screen, right? It is a big, big deal to just have and it's the same if you have a CPA firm and you're headquartered in, let's say, New York, and you hire 5 people in Kansas. Those Kansas people needed to be treated just like the New Yorkers. And if you'll do that, you'll have a fantastic success rate with your satellite offices. If you've learned how to do that with satellite offices, then the Philippines and Latin America are just more satellite offices.
And that's all they are. And Melissa and Ely, if you would take the perspective of the employee. So, I'm working for a firm and the firm treats us as the Colombian team or the Filipino team versus the firm treats us as us, right? And we're one. So from a person who's doing this stuff, right? An employee, from an employee perspective, what's the difference there?
Well, I have versions and I think being myself and consider myself a part of the American team, it makes so much easier the job. You wake up like having all this tasks, but you are super happy, super excited to do it. You don't feel like any difference, and they treat you like if you were a blocks apart from the headquarters. So it is super nice. And of course, I agree with David. The most important is to treat the people, no matter where they are, as part of the team. Of course, all the gatherings that you do and celebrate and giving, which I adore that American celebration. But it's nice to feel that warmth. And in between the culture difference, it makes you feel like you belong to the organization too.
Yeah. So
in the Philippines, a proof of concept that firms that treat their offshore team members as an extension, as opposed to an ancillary part, right? Disposable, they perform a lot better across key metrics of the business. In fact, thank you, David, for mentioning that our attrition is low. It's just for scale or comparison. I want to share with you and for those that are listening that the attrition at GSC is 2.5 times lower than the other organizations operating as outsourcing providers based in the Philippines. And I think partly it's because of the relationship that we have with the employees. I mean, you can't argue with stats. I mean, the other metric that I'm very, very proud to share with everyone is that the employee engagement or satisfaction rate is super high. We're always in our 90s when it comes to our likelihood to recommend. They are, after all, our biggest ambassadors when we would need talent for our clients. They're the ones reaching out to friends or colleagues working in other organizations and asking them, hey, join GSC. GSC, nice culture, nice benefits and all of that good stuff. So it works.
It works. So, and then let's talk about some cultural differences, right? So I'm an American. Sometimes people say I can be direct, maybe even a little bit abrupt, right? I've heard that. So talk about the importance of cultural differences because, we all live our life through the lenses that we've lived our life and where we grew up. So why don't you talk a little bit about some of the important things of working with a Filipino team and a Latin American team?
All right. There's a ton of stereotypes out there, and I don't want to I don't want to be perpetuating them, right? I'm going to mention one though that I feel like has given Filipino workers a little bit of a flack, right? Filipino time. I'm not sure if you've heard of that. You haven't?
I'm abrupt, man. There's no Filipino time in my life. That I will assure you.
I'm not very proud of this, but back home, when you say Filipino time, it means you're late. You're late. You're operating on Filipino time. And that's not nearly the case right now as it had been in the past because of our exposure to working with clients internationally, especially North American clients, of which we have a lot now. We've learned the value of making sure that, hey, being on time means 5 minutes before this, you're already there. That's Filipino time for us. And then culturally, the way that we process feedback is also different. The way that we give and receive feedback is different from how Americans are accustomed to. So every now and again, you're going to experience some heartbreak, some miscommunication, some disconnect about intention, right? But at the end of the day, it's really just about not making any of these assumptions. Also part of the L&D team at Global Staff Connections, David, part of my responsibility is to design, develop, and in some cases facilitate these cross-cultural trainings, soft skills, if you will. And that's among the things that I try very hard to put out there. Forget about those assumptions. You need to check them at the door. All right. Because if you're only going to ask, you're going to realize that it's good intentions all the way around. That's my experience with culture.
Great. And Melissa, anything you want to add?
Yeah, well, it's like so different culture in between all of our countries. We all speak Spanish, but we have so different personalities, the food, the way we dance. But when in terms to work with an Americans, I think you cannot decide how helpful we are. We want to do our best. We are super soft, so it doesn't matter if your boss or the team in the States, they are tough because you are super direct and you say what you want to say in a few words, but we are more like, hey, how are you doing? And more personal interaction, is that a word?
Yeah.
So it's not a matter of who you are or how do you do or the way you have been growing your whole life in your base country. It's not personal. That's the way I am, but I have to respect the way they are. So as long as you respect to each other and you have a great communication, that's the most important thing.
And for me, one of the wow moments I had one time, and we do treat our team as one team. In fact, we've had award winners that were in the Philippines, most impactful person of the year. One time I got everybody swagged, shirts with their logo on it for our sales support team. And I happened to be sitting on the beach and I got myself a long sleeve shirt. And we're having like a fashion show. Everybody wore what they got. And I said to everybody, hey guys, I'm sweating. Let's wrap this up. I'm hot. And somebody said, what temperature is it? And it was 76 degrees. Now I watched on my screen where every single person went to Fahrenheit to Celsius because I'm the only one who's in Fahrenheit. And then I saw every person starting to laugh because for them, 76 was one of the coldest days of
Oh, boy.
And I thought if the definition of hot isn't the same, I think a lot of our assumptions shouldn't be there. And we want to make sure that we're communicating.
Yeah.
So, and let's talk about cost savings, right? I mean, I think there's really two huge benefits. I think the biggest benefit is access to talent, right? So even if it costs the same, that you are able to find a manager or a role. But the other piece is cost savings. So David, why don't you share a little bit?
Yeah. Talent availability is an interesting one I'm going to just touch on as well. But, it's mind blowing to me as an American, grew up in South Carolina and, born and bred there. And so Latin America has 660 million people, double the population of the United States. And so I get requests, obviously we do taxstaff.com and CPAs, but we get requests for other things too occasionally. Can you get me this other type of person or this other type of role, in an organization? And it's neat to be able to say, gosh, well, there's 660 million people. Let's see. In other words, they have every possible position you can think of in the United States. In Latin America, times at least 2.
All right.
So there's a lot of talent. And the difference is the United States of America is the leader of the free world. It's busy and it has people from the Philippines, from India, from Latin America and Ukraine and everywhere else. So to help us get our jobs done here in America. So it's pretty cool to have such an awesome, large base of talent that's on your same time zone. On the cost scenario, we find that our clients are enjoying a minimum of a 50% less cost structure. And the more talented the nearshored person is, the higher so if you have a really high end position in the US and you find this really high end person in Latin America, you may save 70%, by the way. And you might think, how is this possible? I guarantee you that your high end position that's open that you're having a hard time filling in the US, the person that took your job that you found, this wonderful person that we brought, it's the highest pay they've ever had in their lives. You're saving 70% thinking, how is this possible? And I'm talking benefits and everything, even our costs and fees. So it's pretty amazing. Once our clients realize, wow, I had no idea, and is this person who I'm paying 70% less suffering? No, they got a 20% raise to come to this 70%.
I want to echo that straight away, David. I need to echo that because it's basically the same. I mean, they're the highest paid. Some of them are paid more than I.
Well, should we cut this on that?
If my boss is listening, he's probably gonna pay because they're not suffering. They're really highly regarded, and it started that way in the Philippines too. It's labor arbitrage for sure, cost savings for sure, but I think it's evolving now towards other attributes, other qualities that the Filipinos are able to bring to the table. Adaptability, coachability, right? They're very, very warm.
Yeah.
People. I heard someone say that Filipinos have an unfair DNA advantage almost of being built for professional services. Right. And I agree. They please. They want to please.
They want to please and they take pride.
They take pride in what they do.
Well, great. And so, Ely, let's talk a little bit about infrastructure, right? Because I'm a US-based company. Keeping up with the rules and regulations in America is difficult enough. And now I'm going to have the joy of knowing rules and laws in the Philippines, right? Well, that's not the case. So why don't you talk about how not only do you help offshore, but you help people keep in compliance in their local country.
Yeah, we need to make sure that we have a team. It does help that there's a lot of similarities between the way that the U.S. runs its businesses and the Filipinos, even compliance, rules, labor. There's plenty of similarities. That's why the only thing that we need to do as the employer of record of the talents that we're staffing to our clients is to make sure that they're working the hours of our clients. And whenever they do, they're protected by the government. They get night differential, right? Things are well. And then we have our IT team making sure that we're, all the compliance, ISO, data privacy, ISAT, right? All of these things are complied with annually. All of our employees are required to take annual information and technology exams. We record these things because these are among those that are being required by the government.
And so if you're doing offshoring, whether it's in South America or in the Philippines or South Africa, the firm that you're working with, if they're a firm, sometimes it's a one person with two friends, right? But if it's a firm, their role is also to help you with compliance. And so you don't have to learn a whole nother set of rules and regulations. I think in the Philippines, you have a 13th month, right? Or something like that, right?
Same here. And in Argentina, it's 14 months.
Right. And so, your savings are there and that stuff is baked in, but you need to stay in compliance because you can get in trouble.
All right.
So, why don't we go around as we wrap this up, right? Why don't you share one final point that makes you excited or that the audience should know about? David, why don't you start?
Okay. Well, since we just talked about compliance and stuff, I'm really excited to tell you guys that the number one compliance that we are working on is our SOC 2 Type 2 compliance, which many people may know. This is an American thing, right? There's ISO and there's lots of other things, but the SOC 2 Type 2 is what most American companies require. So we are SOC 2 Type 2. We're in candidate stage right now. And so what I'm excited about is that we will be fully confirmed here in the next couple of months.
Awesome. Alyssa?
All I can say is, you have to try and let you the opportunity to know people from Latin America. We're great people. We're just ready to work with your firms. and getting you all the paperwork done very fast. Lovely people.
For the Philippines, I know with my interaction with our clients and our prospects, our partners, my learning is that the firms that we service, our partners, the technical piece of the accounting isn't their biggest problem. The biggest challenge is always making sure that they have enough people, they have the right people, and that they have the capacity to scale sustainably. And GSC is pretty much in that direction. We're in the business of making that happen.
And to me, I think it's really important that you look at talent as a global solution, not my local community solution. And if you're competing on that global stage, they don't necessarily know that this firm is $1 billion firm and you're a $2 million firm. And so you can truly compete on a much more level plane over there. We've seen people tell us that they can't grow because they can't find staff. A year later, they have 30 people offshore and they're growing as quick as they can. So something to explore. But like most things, hard to be a hobby. If you're going to do it, you kind of have to dedicate your resources in the beginning, especially understand that there'll be some bumps along the way.
Yeah.
So just want to thank our audience for attending another episode, sharing information. If you want to get in touch with David or Melissa or Ely, just let us know and we're here to help you. So everybody go crush your day and thank you.
Thank you for tuning into Everything CPA and Private Equity. Every episode brings fresh insight. However, there's always more to talk about.
Don't miss an episode. Subscribe wherever you watch podcasts. Have a question or topic you'd like us to cover? We'd love for you to reach out to us.
Together, we will help you navigate this dynamic landscape so that we can help you achieve your goals. Until next time, keep making moves that matter.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.